Merry Christmas and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. You know, there are too many people in this world, and especially this country, who don't want anyone to say Merry Christmas. The reasons for such attitudes don't concern us today, but one of their so-called proofs does. They seize upon what they say are historical impossibilities in the gospel accounts. And then they say, there, you see? And what do they want you to see? That Christ never lived, or that he was not what he said he was. Today, as we remember Christ's birth, for that is what Christmas is all about, we will examine the account of his birth and why it creates confusion that atheists, agnostics try to exploit. Before I dive into this, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which quotes Noah as saying, sometimes faith will make you look stupid until it rains. And to underline that point, look at this. This is Noah's Ark, or life ship, as the word actually translates. Happily, we're not here to talk about the flood. That's an event of judgment. We're here to talk about Christ's birth, which is a presage of redemption. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click on that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now, of the four evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they're the ones who brought a good message to humankind, Luke the physician gives the greatest detail. He even begins with the conception and birth of John the Baptist. Actually, that's John the Baptizer. And a chronological fix. To be specific, Zacharias, father of John, was a priest in the 8th or Abia division, or course. This fixes the time when Zacharias held temple duty, when angel Gabriel appeared to him. Luke chapter 1, verses 5 through 25. Then, when his wife Elizabeth was 6 months along with John, Gabriel visited Mary. Luke chapter 1, verses 26 through 38. This tells us the time of year of Christ's birth. To work this out from these clues, we turn to a calendar chart. A lady by the name of Marie Casal worked it out in 2011. I have a link in the description to her chart. Now I'm going to walk you through it. The chart fixes the birth of Christ in 5 BC. Yes, his birth is out of synchrony with the BC AD reckoning. Those who fixed the reckoning were about 4 years off. It begins with the Abia course starting at noon on a Sabbath day. Now this particular Sabbath fell 3 days before the new moon. And that works out to May 15th, 6 BC in the Julian calendar. That's Julian, as in dictator Julius Caesar. He gave us that calendar shortly before, he died. Casal assumes that all prophetic visions happen with the change of month, which for the Jews is the new moon. The new moon, or first day of Sivan year 3755 of the world, the way the Jews reckon when the world began, Gabriel appeared to Zacharias. We assume after that Elizabeth conceived John the Baptist on June 17th, the first day of Tammuz. Fast forward 6 months to the first day of Tebeth, 3756. The Jewish New Year takes place in the fall, so by now the year has turned. That date works out to December 12th, 6 BC. We can assume that Mary conceived Jesus the same day that Gabriel visited her, and Jesus was born 9 months after that, during the Feast of Tabernacles. This fell during the week of September 16th through 23rd, 5 BC. Now, to make that date more likely, a total eclipse of the moon happened on September 15th of that year. Astronomy is always your friend when fixing ancient dates. Luke tells the actual Christmas story in chapter 2 of his Gospel. Right away we have a problem. We assume that this was a great taxation. In fact, the various translations of scriptures into English sometimes cause confusion. First, King James I Royal Commission on Bible Translation uses the verb to tax in Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. Not correct. The words that appear in the original Greek do not translate to tax, but to register in a census. The Roman bureaucracy financed all such censuses by making the enrollees pay for it, typically 1 denarius a head. The Greeks took the Latin word that we pronounce census today, they pronounce it census in those days, and they call it the word cane sauce, which in their language and script is spelled kappa, eta, nu, sigma, omicron, sigma. It is a borrowed word, like the phrase hors d'oeuvre from French into English. That word cane sauce means the fee or tax a census enrollee had to pay. So Mary and Joseph did not have to travel to Bethlehem early to pay the tax. The tax was incidental. They were there to register for the census. Second, too many scholars assume that the census was some kind of one-off event. I'm going to tell you why it wasn't, but first, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You're not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Now, whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, back to why this Roman census was not a one-off event. It was a regular thing. We read in the original text two different versions of the verb that translates as to register. First, in verses 1 and 3, we see the form apographestai. That is a present infinitive. Then in verse 5, we see a different form, apographsastai. That is an aorist infinitive, spelled A-O-R-I-S-T. Now, what is this word that almost rhymes with aorist? The aorist tense in ancient Greek refers to one-off events in the past. And of course, English does not have anything like an aorist infinitive. The Greek present infinitive means to do a thing repeatedly, regularly, or continually. The aorist infinitive means to do it once. It can also refer, as it does here, to one instance of a regular doing. One other tense form confuses modern readers. Luke tells us that all went to be taxed. Actually, he means everyone would go to register. The word eporuanto is an imperfect form. It refers to repetitive or regular action in the past. We turn now to this man Quirinius, or Cyrenius, governor of Syria, in verse 2. Now, Luke wouldn't have mentioned him if he were not a very important person, and he was. Only 3 years ago, modern times, Bible Archaeology Report published an excellent biography of him, to which I have a link in the description. Quirinius was consul of Rome in 12 BC, and was the legate of Syria in 6 AD. But between those years, he actually led troops in a major action in that same region. Luke does not use a noun that would translate as the title governor, but a participle that translates as governing. In the ancient world, you were what you did or were doing. In this case, Quirinius was at the time the senior Roman official in Syria. At an unsettled time, they were at war. So he was not legate or proconsul or anything as formal as that. He was commander in theater. This resolves the supposed inconsistency. So Luke tells us that this regular census was first taken while Quirinius was commanding or governing in Syria. Now that need not tell us the year of Christ's birth, because the census was a regular event. So perhaps we ought to translate these first 5 verses of Luke chapter 2 this way. Quote, "And so it fell out that a decree," the literal word is dogma, a given thing, "went out from Caesar Augustus, ordering all the Roman world to register regularly for a census. This census first took place while Publius Sulpicius Quirinius was commander in theater in Syria. Everyone would go to register, each to his own designated city. So Joseph went up out of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he belonged to the house and lineage of David, to register with Mary, his betrothed, who at the time was close to term with her child." Unquote Luke the physician. Combine this with the calculation that the birth of Christ happened during tabernacles of 5 BC, and you know why there was no room for them in the inn. Luke chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. Actually, the Greek word kataluna meant upper room. Mary and Joseph did have to stay in a stable, because that was the only vacant place for them. The double stress of the Roman census and the Feast of Tabernacles made Bethlehem a crowded town. Furthermore, the stable was part of the same building on the lower level. Last of all, we celebrate Christmas on December 25th, but not because Christ was born in that season. In fact, he couldn't have been, because Luke tells us that shepherds were nearby, staying in the fields and minding their flocks. Luke chapter 2, verses 8 through 14. Only twice a year would shepherds be keeping watch over flocks of sheep. At lambing time in the spring and at mating time in the fall. They would never be staying out in the fields in the winter. But of course, the Roman Catholic Church gives us most of our traditions. These come in turn from the calendar of the Roman state religion before Constantine the Great adopted Christianity. The Christmas season is an adaptation of the Roman feast of Saturnalia, a winter holiday. But more significantly still, the Western world takes its calendar from Pope Gregory IX, who adapted Julius Caesar's calendar. Caesar fixed the new year at the first day, or the calends of January. For Janus, the two-faced god who looks ahead and behind, Pope Gregory saw no reason to change that. So, the Western world observes the new year as an occasion for new beginnings. That is why we make New Year's resolutions. And exactly 1 week before that, the Western world observes Christmas. Which brings me to this. The one major change the church made in the calendar at the time was to impose the 7-day week, which it inherited from the Jews, in place of the Roman nundinus, or market interval, which ran for 8 or 9 days. Hopefully this will serve to dispel any confusion anyone might have about whether Christmas is real or not, and why we celebrate it when we do. In any event, let us remember the reason for the season, which is not only Christ, but what he taught, stood for, and represents. Link in the description to the article, to Marie Casals' calendar chart, to Bible Archaeology Report's Biography of Quirinius, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlives.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to a selection of videos that cover Christ's birth and what it means. This is Terry A. Hurlbut, delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.